First team all MLB according to Just Baseball. Aram and I are going to go through each position and give the best of the best, both the American League and the National League. And we thought instead of doing an honorable mention, why don't we just make a second team, right? That makes sense. MLB, when they come out with their first team all MLB team, they don't just do honorable mentions. They make a second team. So catcher, first base, second base, third base, shortstop, 3 outfield positions. It doesn't have to be left, right, or center. Just any outfielder, 5 starters and 2 relievers, and we'll put together 2 teams. I say we just go position by position, and if we disagree on them, we can talk a little bit deeper. Cal Raleigh is pretty easy as the first team MLB catcher.
Yeah, and I don't have much analysis there. I think that was the easiest. And then it honestly gets more difficult right from there.
Exactly. First base. Should we say it on 3, or do you want to just go first?
Let's say it on 3.
3, 2, 1. Matt Olson.
Nick Kurtz.
Okay. Ooh. All right. So we got a little bit of. Was Matt Olson your second team guy?
I'll get into that.
Okay. All right. Let's debate Matt Olson versus Nick Kurtz, because you look at the WRC plus and Nick Kurtz put up a 164, 64% better than a league average hitter. Even though Nick Kurtz only played 111 games, he still hit more home runs. Here's why I went with Matt Olson, though, because I think he was the best combination of it all. That's why he led all first basemen in FWAR at 4.7 compared to Nick Kurtz at 4.0. Now, if Nick Kurtz played every game this season, he would have been higher. But he only played 111 games, and it was tough putting me there when Matt Olson did have that gap. He also just won the Gold Glove, and it's not a random Gold Glove. He was the best defender at the position. He hit 41 doubles, 29 home runs, still hit 272, took his walks, slugged at a 484 clip. I did feel he was the best combination of everything at the first base position, and I do like that he played all 162 games.
This was really hard for me. This was probably the hardest position for me, to be honest, because I think when you look at Olson, it's just that's the safest. Like, how can you argue against that in terms of it's such a sound pick, right? Like it's really hard to poke a hole in it, right? The only way that I can poke a hole in it is just saying I like this other guy more, right? There's nothing I can say about Matt Olson that's going to take away from him and him being the main guy. This is where it also becomes like, how good do you have to be in how many less games to make this thing happen? You know, like to overtake somebody. And that was what I sat with and probably spent the majority of my time trying to decide. And ultimately, I think looking at what Kurtz did, I thought he was just enough of an outlier at the position compared to everybody else to get the nod for me. And generally, I'm going to go with the guy that played all the games. Like I think their availability, especially, in today's game and how long the season is absolutely huge. But when you've got a 170 WRC plus, and the other part too, I was like, okay, well, home ballpark, ball flies a little bit, whatever. Looking at the WRC plus, I'm like, it's still is off the charts. The 36 homers in 117 games. Like there were so many wrinkles to it. Seeing a slugging percentage north of 600 to me was also nuts. I would never dig my heels in on this one. It was just more for me. Yeah. Thank you, Michael. I love it. I love that the shirt's getting some love. I just felt like for me, it was so much better offensively than everybody else at an offensive driven position. And to the fact that like when I started comparing him to all hitters, minimum 100 games, like he's up there with the best in the game, period. That was just enough of a separator for me to go with that. I think if it was, 90 games, 95, I don't think it would matter how many or how high his WRC plus was, but getting to if you add in some DH games, 117 contests there, just how good he was, it was enough for me to give him the nod. And, when you go by WRC plus, he was only behind Judge and Ohtani. Like that is crazy stuff.
It just is unfortunate that you're going for more of the glitz and glamour, the flash guy, over the lunch pail guy. Yeah, the guy who goes to work every day, plays 162 games, and does it all. But Nick Kurtz hits some home runs, and here Aram is already crowning him. What's up with that? I thought you were a believer in the lunch pail guy. There's a lot of glitz and glamour, right? You go to the World Series now, you have some good seats, and now you're sitting with the guys where it's like, I don't care if they stay healthy all year. As long as they have some flashy home runs, I'm in.
It's all about the shiny new toy. And and also it's all about narratives, as you know. And the narrative I can just create is I can just put Kurtz in the Ohtani Judge bucket on all these different stats. So yeah, I love the big market in Sacramento. But 3 players with at least 150 plate appearances had a slugging percentage north of 600. Was Aaron Judge, Shohei Ohtani, Nick Kurtz. I think we talked about the WRC plus, right? It's 3 guys had a 170 or above. It was Nick Kurtz, Shohei Ohtani at 172, and Aaron Judge at 204. It was one of the more ridiculous home run paces we've seen. I just think the culmination of things. I'm also shocked he didn't defend better by the metrics because he's a good defender. That was surprising to me. But I just putting that dominance offensively into context of it was him and then the 2 best guys. It was enough for me to just say I'm going to go with the smaller sample dominance from Nick Kurtz. But again, Matt Olson, it's just another complete season from him.
Where are you at on second base? Because this one is another battle of a player who played less games, but was more prolific in those games compared to the guy who also did it all without slugging. Where did you go for your second base position? Because I feel like I'm kind of a hypocrite by going with Ketel Marte as my first teamer. But the reason I don't feel like that is Ketel Marte did play more games than Nick Kurtz. The F-WAR total was very, very close. And then just the offensive numbers dwarfed what Horner could do, even though Horner was, a 300 hitter. He stole 29 bases. But I went with Ketel Marte as my first team second base guy.
I did too. It's tough because I think if you look at a lot of metrics, you can probably start to gravitate towards Horner. And I think there's a lot of things that Horner obviously does really, really well. And it's a similar conversation. But Ketel Marte was an MVP candidate before going down. And I think the way that he was impacting a game, and there's not a lot of second basemen that are, kind of, I think, making the impact that Ketel Marte is making on multiple fronts. I feel like at his best, there's just no one really even close to him. And then when you look at the season that he still ended up turning in, was right there in the F4 department. It was, I think comfortably the best offensive season we got from a second baseman. And again, I just think it's enough games here. Obviously we're going to spoil, like, Nico Horner's without a doubt going to be, the second guy there. But when you're slugging, you're hitting for average, you're getting on base at the clip that he's getting on base on. I just feel like Ketel Marte is impacting the game in so many different ways that it's really hard to go any other direction for me.
And at third base, make it easy. Jose Ramirez, just another incredible season. Another one. I mean, this guy, 30 home runs, 44 steals, slugged over 500, played great defense, only struck out 11% of the time. Just one of the most consistent players in sports, it feels like. Yep. We compare him to his peers in Major League Baseball, and it's hard to find guys in our own sport. You even go across the NFL, you go NBA, hockey. Like, when you think of consistent, you think of Jose Ramirez. And I feel people continue to call him the most underrated player, and I get it. But at this point, everybody knows who Jose Ramirez is. And I feel like calling him underrated almost hurts him in a way, because he is one of the best players in baseball. Point blank period, has been that way for the last half decade and even longer.
I think it's tough to call a perennial, and I know he hasn't gotten one, but like, to call perennial MVP candidate underrated. Like, I think almost, to your point, like, facilitates the underrated aspect of him. Like, it's contributing to that narrative in a way. So yeah, I think it's just time to just make sure we're recognizing how special this guy is. He's like gonna, it's already almost how much, what's his career WAR at this point? It's something disgusting. Like, I think he's gonna be a Hall of Famer, and
might be a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Yeah, because he's not slowing down.
No.
And then the 44 bags, it's just, and he's doing it with no protection in that lineup. He always is doing it with no protection in that lineup. It's just remarkable stuff. So that was a no-brainer. He almost walked as much as he struck out. and he slugged over 500.
Yeah.
It's stupid stuff.
Shortstop. Bobby Witt Jr. had a pretty underrated year. Like, genuinely, he put up an 8-WAR season, and everybody's focused on Judge and Cal Raleigh for American League MVP, and deservedly so. But the reason I, again, call it underrated is because he didn't finish top 3 in AL MVP voting. Jose Ramirez was the 3rd. And I love J-Ram. Bobby Witt Jr. had a better season. I understand because Cleveland won the division. The Royals fell short. But that doesn't take away from a 1.7 F-WAR difference for me, because Bobby Witt Jr. was the best defender in baseball this year. Or at least in the conversation, you can point to a couple of numbers and be like, no, actually, Peter, he's 3 because of this. He is a unbelievable defender at the shortstop position while being a power threat, while being able to steal bases at will, while hitting a double, it seems like every single game, while leading Major League Baseball in hits. Hashtag cash that ticket. Hashtag Peter Apple. I don't know why I said hashtag Peter Apple. I was getting into it. I don't know. Regardless, Bobby Witt Jr., I think, should be in the MVP conversation, but it is Jose Ramirez. So right here, I will say I would have given a vote to Bobby Witt Jr. over J-Ram this season.
Yeah, that is an interesting conversation too, because I think, Bobby Witt, I we kind of went under the radar how strong he finished the year as well. But and I was thinking about trying to be consistent with the second base position and shortstop as well, because I think a lot of Bobby Witt's WAR this year, he had a great offensive season, but I think a lot of the WAR did come from the defensive value that he brought to the table in terms of outs above average. I think he was the best defender in the sport in that regard. But I think there's something about being the best defender at shortstop versus the best defender at second base. And I think, again, a lot of value to that as well. But unless there's a massive, gap there in terms of the offensive output, I think that the defense at shortstop is going to hold a little bit more value to me. And I think that's why it's been so incredible to watch what Bobby Witt can do at shortstop, and you see the value in the WAR department obviously there as well. I think it's an interesting conversation because I think the narrative does point towards J-Ram and the MVP discussion because of the team and everything and how he carries that team. But also, what else did you want Bobby Witt to do? That team, he was carrying that team as well, and he didn't have much protection either. So that is a fun conversation. But yeah, in terms of the shortstop position, I don't want to say fully no-brainer, because I do think Geraldo Perdomo did a good job of making this thing actually a little bit of a conversation, but Bobby Witt was the guy.
Yeah, he's the guy. All right, let's move over to outfield. I went with Judge as my first outfielder. I assume you did as well.
Correct.
I went with Corbin Carroll as my number 2.
I agree.
We're still aligned?
Yep.
And then I think there's a little bit of a discussion.
This was hard.
And what do you value more? Defense or offense? That's how I looked at it between Fernando Tatis Jr. and Juan Soto. I pick offense. I know he was terrible defensively. I know. And Fernando Tatis Jr. was the best of both worlds. But Juan Soto was so prolific this year. If you look at the numbers, I mean, they're stupid. 43 home runs, 38 stolen bases. He was second to Aaron Judge in walk rate, 396 on base percentage, 156 WRC plus. I know Fernando Tatis Jr. had the higher WAR, and it's because Juan Soto was a garbage man of a defender, and Fernando Tatis Jr. continues to be great out there. But when Juan Soto is nearly doubling your home run total and stealing more bases than you, putting up a similar slash line, except he's slugging way more and getting on base way more, I'm just telling myself I would rather have Juan Soto on my team this year than Fernando Tatis Jr., even though Tatis does have the edge in WAR.
Yeah, and we're talking about a corner outfield spot where, of course, defense still matters.
It does, but
they're not two center fielders here, where I think it becomes a little bit of more of a conversation on the defensive side of things. Like in the corner, there's more pressure on the bat, as there always is. So I went Soto as well, especially because the stolen base aspect. But as you mentioned, almost doubling up on the home run total, 30 more points in the OBP department. The slugging was a huge gap, of course, with the homers, but then also just extra base hits in general. Tatis closed the gap with the defense, but from my corner outfielder, I'm always going to value the slugging ability and just the offense in general.
Let's move over to the starting staff. Who would you give the Major League Cy Young to between Tarek Skubal and Paul Skeens? Putting you on the spot. Who'd you list first? I listed Tarik Skubal. Even though now looking at it on my screen again, I'm thinking to myself, that's a 1.970 ERA. That's a 1.970 ERA staring me right in the face.
Yep.
But Skubal did lead league in F4, which is basically looking at your FIP.
Yeah.
And a couple of the underlying metrics were a little bit better for Skubal. But I can hear the argument for Skeens. I'm just curious where you sit. Who'd you write down first?
I wrote Skubal first just because like he's just like fresh on the mind with the playoffs and everything as well. But when you bring up the conversation, I
know. I had the same reaction.
I think there's a strong case to be made for Skeens.
Me too.
I do. I think his situation was significantly worse. He's working with, I think, worse backstop situation as well. I mean, Dinkler was awesome, I mean, all year long and really helpful as well. I think I don't have the park factors in front of me, and I know that's all baked into a lot of these numbers too, but it's just a little bit easier pitching in Comerica. And I mean, it was a 197. I think there's something about a sub 2 and nearly 200 innings. I would probably go with Skeens for the sign. Even though I think Tarik Skubal is the best pitcher in baseball right now, I think Paul Skeens had the better season.
So here's why I'm going with Skubal, and we're splitting hairs here. I look at them and I see Skeens made one more start, but Tarik Skubal threw 8 more innings, almost 9 more innings. And it's because Skubal in each one of his starts went longer than Paul Skeens. And I do wonder if, because especially towards the end of the season and even during the middle of the season, as the Pirates want to limit his innings, it was a lot of 5 innings, 6 inning starts, where Skubal more often than not was going into the 6th and the 7th. And as a starting pitcher, when are you most what's the right
vulnerable?
Word? Vulnerable to runs? It would be in that 6th, 7th inning of work. So, and I'm not doubting Skeens can do it. And it's not even his fault that he didn't, because if you ask Paul Skeens, hey, you want another inning? Of course he's going to say yes.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't want to get pulled. But I do think that matters when we're talking about run prevention.
Yeah.
Would his ERA look a little bit worse?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because his final.
Go ahead.
I would say his final 16 starts, to your point. I mean, he was outrageous. But he averaged like 5 1/3 or 5 2/3 per start, if I'm not mistaken. So it is interesting. That is a good point.
Well, both of them are on our first team. Who you got at number 3? I put down Garrett Crochet.
So it was interesting because my first reaction, and like Crochet's on the first team, was to go Crochet, but I was looking at what Hunter Brown did this year as well.
Really? I was thinking Sanchez would be my number.
And Sanchez as well.
Yeah.
But I had Christopher Sanchez as my third. Just, again, there's no specific order to it, but Sanchez in his 202 innings. It's just crazy stuff. To do what he did at a 2.50. And again, I know Crochet very similar figures as well. But yeah, Sanchez and Crochet were just no brainers there.
I think I'm just a fan of the strikeouts.
Yeah.
Led Major League Baseball in strikeouts. There's a very similar ERA. It's a very similar amount of innings pitched.
Same
and I just went with the big oink because I felt like when I was watching both of them, they dominate in different ways. They're both as good. Again, we're splitting hairs when we're really comparing them. But I do feel like when Crochet is on, it feels more dominant than it does with Christopher Sanchez, even though Christopher Sanchez, I think, is probably better at suppressing runs, albeit slightly, which is the goal of the pitcher. So I know I'm kind of backing myself into a corner.
Yeah, but neither give up free passes.
No, neither do either. So I went with Garrett Crochet at number 3, but then I went Sanchez at number 4. I could hear either argument. But those
pretty much.
And then is Brown your 5?
Yep.
Brown is also my 5. So we have the exact same rotation, just in slightly different order. Who did you go with as your 2 relievers, and why is it Mike Vassell with the Chicago White Sox, who pitched to a 2.00 ERA in 90 innings? And he's not on my first or second team, but I want it to be known that Mike Vassell of the Chicago White Sox through 90 innings, led all relievers, and pitched to a 2.00 ERA. Don't look at his underlying metrics. Do not look at his strikeout rate. Do not look at his walk rate. Don't look at anything else. Just know that happened.
I want to know. I want to know how many pitchers in the history of baseball, or at least in the modern era, have thrown more than 100 innings at a 2.5 or below with his strikeout to walk rate. I would like, I need to pull that up because there can't be a lot. It's one of the more like improbable pitching seasons we've ever seen.
Quantrill?
Honestly, maybe. Yeah. Maybe. Yeah. He might be the next Quantrill. But Chapman was a no-brainer. Yeah. I think this was one of the best reliever seasons. I feel like we say this a lot because it just continues to happen. But I mean, this is one of the best reliever seasons we've seen in a long time. I mean, you had a stretch where like he was legitimately unhittable. Like opponents were what? Was a 1 for 40 over a strike? Like, there was something stupid. A 1.17 ERA. He was just absolutely locked down. I can't remember, the last time a reliever had a stretch like Chapman had this year, where it's not just the run prevention, it's the hit prevention, it's the anything prevention.
I do think Class A was better last year. Just reminding everybody of the numbers he put up last year. He put up a 0.61 ERA in 74 innings and had 47 saves.
That is stupid.
Yeah, I think, but Chapman, again, that doesn't take anything away from Chapman. He was my also number one. Well, actually, he was number 2 behind Mike Vassell. No, he was my number 1. And number 2, I went with Diaz. But I could also, Edwin Diaz of the New York Mets. I could hear a lot of different arguments. The next 2 on my second team, which I want to save for right now, could totally hear an argument. But did you have Edwin Diaz? I just saw second best ERA. He threw enough innings. He got a bunch of saves. I mean, a 1.63 with like a 13 K per 9. I'm just going to go with him.
Yeah. And Chapman, like, I think it's an interesting conversation versus like the Class A season because both very similar in terms of, I think slash line allowed, things like that. Like Chapman had a 400 OPS allowed this year. Like it's unfathomable. And I'm just trying to remember a stretch where like you had hitters so consistently not getting a hit against a guy. Like, what was it? We had 17 straight appearances where Chapman did not allow a hit. That was just a special stretch that I can't remember seeing something like that in a little bit. So Chapman was a no-brainer. And then Diaz, man, like I honestly knew he was great this year when we were going through this process. It's a better season than I remembered. Like, makes sense that he opted out.
Yeah. So those are our 2. Are you ready? I guess we didn't really have any disagreements outside.
No, I think there'll be more in second team. First team is just like the best are the best. And like it's usually like the best at each position do a pretty good job of separating themselves. And I think that's what we saw in this year, especially on the pitching front.
I almost made a huge goof. Designated hitter. It's Ohtani.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why you forgot it almost.
Yeah. It's almost such a foregone conclusion. So to recap, my first team: Cal Raleigh, Matt Olson, Ketel Marte, Jose Ramirez, Bobby Witt Jr., Aaron Judge, Corbin Carroll, Juan Soto, Shohei Ohtani, Skubal, Skeens, Crochet, Sanchez, Hunter Brown. And then my relievers are Aroldis Chapman and Edwin Diaz. And Aram's only disagreement is Nick Kurtz at first base. And it's because he's big market Leighton.
Yeah.
It's Sacramento, the huge market over there.
Yeah.
And he likes the glitz and the glamour.
And I like prospects, and he's the most recent to be a prospect, right?
And Matt Olson's too old for you.
Yeah. Once you are a year removed from graduating, like once you're no longer a rookie, I don't care about you.
All right. Before we get to our second team, we're going to take our last break. The best of the rest, our second team All MLB team. Now, we could have a couple more debates.
I think we will.
Who knows? And it might start at catcher because I know you're a glitz and glam guy. You love the offense. Guy hits a few more home runs, and here comes Aram Leighton to defend him. So who'd you go with the catcher? Because I think I'm going with the best, or the second best, of course, all-around catcher in Major League Baseball this season.
Yeah, I did the same. I went Alejandro Kirk.
There we go. There we go. No more glitz and glam here. Let's go with the 5'8", 265. I was going to call him a muscle hamster.
He might be with how hard he can hit the ball. It's just the defense was so good. That was fun to watch too in the postseason. Just watching him like in person, just the way that he moves behind the dish is so impressive. And this is a position where it's going to matter a lot more as well. Plus, he played more games than Will Smith. You know, Will Smith was awesome. I think Dylan Dingler was awesome as well. But yeah, just you look at the 130 games. The offensive output was still great, and then the defense was elite. I felt like he was the best all-around catcher, not named Cal Raleigh.
I agree. Let's move over to first base. I had Nick Kurtz. You had?
That's where I went, Matt Olson. I did give Pete Alonso a long look, though.
Me too. I did as well.
I did. But, you know, when you average B-WAR and F-WAR, when you look at just the culmination of things, Pete Alonso can't throw. And I know like offense is like that's 90% of it for me at first base. But the difference in the last 10% was so substantial that I had to go with you know the guy that just played a well-rounded season in Matt Olson.
Yeah. And for anybody listening and wondering where's Vladimir Guerrero Jr., didn't you guys just see him put up one of the best postseasons we've ever seen? We did watch every second of it. The thing is, these first team and second teams do not include the playoffs. So his 23 home runs this year with average defense and not even his best offensive season. It was a good offensive season, right? It was
some metrics love him. That's where it's the defensive metrics, especially at first base. Like so he was a Gold Glove finalist, and then like you look at it, was it DRS may have loved him? I don't know what. It's that's where it gets tough. But like
he did look good to me. He did look good to me. If you compile all the numbers, maybe slightly above league average.
But I'm gonna take the more complete season. And I think next year though, and we're talking about first baseman I'll take going into next year. Vladdy's near the top of the list with one or two. Maybe it's him and Kurtz, I think, still, in terms of who I think will have the most valuable seasons next year. But he didn't do it all regular season.
I agree. And now moving over to second base, we both went with Ketel Marte. And then for our second team, I assume you went Nico Hoerner.
Yeah. I mean, just he is such a consistently good player. And as much as I love Bryce Terang, as much as I am a huge fan of his game, what Nico Hoerner just does, you talk about just bring lunch to work, grind it out, like
lunch pail guy.
But the defense, even though I think second base defense, and I need to find a better way to quantify this. This is going to be like an offseason project for me, why I think second base defense is slightly inflated. He's so good there that matters a lot. He's always such a valuable base runner. He never strikes out. And he's still going to give you, it's not like he's a complete slap hitter. He's still going to sneak out some homers. He's going to mix in, some doubles and get close to that 400 slug, maybe sometimes just peak above that. I think the way that Terang finished the year makes it very interesting, but Hoerner's just such a special defender there that I think that ultimately was the slight difference.
To be perfectly honest with you, and I don't mean
and Jazz I considered too, of course.
That's what I was about to say. So our guy Sean says, wow, Bryce Terang strays. I think Terang would have finished fourth for me behind Jazz Chisholm. Chisholm was the only second baseman with at least 30 home runs and 30 stolen bases. He played respectable defense over there. I think offensively, because you're talking about second base defense being a little bit inflated, I think Bryce Terang and Nico Hoerner were both aided by a lot of those metrics where Jazz wasn't elite over there, but he certainly wasn't bad. And you'd rather have that stick in the lineup.
He was good. I think the defense was weighed down by the fact that he had to go play some third base.
Yeah.
If he played those 238 innings at second base that he played at third, where he had -4 DRS and -3 OAA, compared to 2 DRS and 8 OAA at second base, he's probably the WAR leader among second basemen, because he would have not been docked for the negative defense at third base and probably would have in those innings graded out continuously as an above average defender. So it is tough because he was the one guy that was asked to move around here. And I think that sucks that it does work against him a little bit when you look at the cumulative numbers.
Because the way I'm thinking about it is going into next year, I'm rating Jazz Chisholm as my second best second baseman in baseball to Ketel Marte. But if we're just looking at this season, Nico Hoerner and Ketel Marte, I think, had better seasons. Mm-hmm. And it has a lot to do with what you just said about playing a lot of those innings at third base. And we can't just say, well, what if he didn't? His numbers would be better, but he did. That's what we're evaluating is this season in front of us. That's why Nico Hoerner and Ketel Marte are first team and second team, and Jazz Chisholm is slightly on his way out. But with that said, I would say Jazz is the second best second baseman in baseball right now.
Yeah, 100%, especially because of how well he grades out defensively there, and like tip of the cap to him to go play third and try to help his team. But it's just not a good position for him, and it affected him. But yeah, we it's hard to play the game of like, oh, we would have graded out great at second base continuously. I think he would have. Obviously, he did. But the numbers are the numbers, unfortunately, for his sake. But 31 and 31 is pretty awesome.
And at third base, we better be aligned here.
We are.
Michael Garcia of the Kansas City Royals is my second team all MLB third baseman. And I love this was our first comment. This comment was asked by our guy Sean at 1:31. We started it at 1:30 Central Time. So as soon as we started, you're getting it right here, Michael Garcia. What a season. Almost a 6-win player. Did everything on the field. How could he not be number 2?
Yeah, I think if the defense, or excuse me, if the offense was, let's say he was closer to Nico Hoerner range where it's like a 109 WRC plus, maybe I start to push towards that Caminero 45 homer season. And but when you're still getting a 121 WRC plus, you're still getting a 286, 351, 449 slash line from Garcia. You're still getting 16 homers and 23 bags to go with the elite defense. That's just the big separator. And then the other guys, it's like there's a clear deficiency here, right? With Caminero and Suarez. Like Caminero got on base at a 311 clip, and I will value the slugging more at third base, no doubt about it. But if Caminero was slugging and getting on base at a higher clip, and we see that WRC plus push to like 145 or 150, then it becomes more of a conversation. But a 311 OBP, like Michael has you beat there. And I think that makes up like a 40-point gap in OBP is going to make up for, I think what was it, like a 70 or 80-point gap on slug between Garcia and Caminero. And then, of course, batting average is going to be higher. Base running value is going to be there. And then the defense is going to be, way, way, way more valuable. So I think Garcia was honestly, at first I thought it would be difficult. And then the more I looked at it, it became easier to go with him as the, number 2 guy here.
Took the words right out of my mouth. I got nothing else to say about my king, Michael Garcia. Never wrong, just early. At shortstop, again, I think it was easy. Geraldo Perdomo. And it stinks because Trey Turner, what a year. Hit over 300, 36 bags, 15 homers. Was such a good defender this year at the position.
Yeah, which is crazy.
Francisco Lindor, another 30 years as shortstop while playing elite defense. Jeremy Pena had a great season as well. But Geraldo Perdomo led the shortstop position in offensive value on Fangraphs. That's incredible. Put a 138 WRC plus, led the position, 20 home runs, 27 stolen bases, walked more than he struck out. You're talking about Caminero with the 311 OBP. Geraldo Perdomo, 389. Switch hitter, did everything at an either above average or an elite level. There was nothing on the baseball field in 2025 that Geraldo Perdomo did not do well.
Yeah, you nailed it. Like it's and that extension is going to age so well for the Diamondbacks. We talked about it early in the year. Like this is just a very underrated player who just continues to get better. And I think adding the strength that he added and starting to slug more. He was 25 years old this year.
Incredible.
He's only going to get better. This is a guy that could be one of the better players in the game as he continues to build up. From 3 homers in 98 games in 2024 to 20 homers in 161 games this past season. And the defense has always been there. No brainer for the second best. And I can't wait to see what he's going to do next year.
And this comment right here, Perdomo is a incredible player and teammate, young clubhouse leader in Arizona. I think it takes a lot of stones to go up there and stand up for your guy, Ketel Marte.
Yeah. when he
right?
probably like
25.
when he kind of was being a little annoying, like,
yeah,
and just going out there and doing that and standing. Yeah, I mean, to do that at 25 years old, to start
not
to
easy.
take the command of that clubhouse, and he's earned the respect of everybody in there. He's a rising star in this game.
And when we're looking at outfielders, Tatis was number 4 for you.
Yeah, he was 4.
Julio Rodriguez number 5.
Yep. This was
6.
the hard one for me. This was really hard for me.
I went with Pete Armstrong.
I wrote down 2.
I don't like it, though. I don't like that I went with Pete Armstrong, even though you look at the totality of his season. Wow, 30 home runs, 30 stolen bases, plus a few in both. Great defense. What are you talking about, Peter? Here's the thing. He was close to that at the All-Star break. It was one of the worst second halves that I've seen when you're comparing it to the first half that you had. So we're rewarding a guy for a total season when most of what he did was in the first half. But that first half was just so otherworldly elite. I said on this show, if I was giving out the MVP award in the first half of the season, I was giving it to him over Shohei. That's how good he was. But then to come back around and say you barely built off that at all.
Yeah.
And it's not like, and this doesn't really influence it, I think it's just worth mentioning that he didn't surge towards the late end of the season or even in the playoffs. I don't know what he's going to give the Cubs next year. I think it's going to be a roller coaster of a career for him.
Yep.
But for now, when I'm looking at the best seasons in the outfield in Major League Baseball, he came in 6th for me.
Who came in 7th for you?
I didn't write down 7. I can look at it
because for me it was Buxton. Like I have Buxton / PCA, and yeah. I just wanted to come into here with the conversation and see like where can you sway me, because PCA's first half carried the entirety of the season, right? But his first half was better than almost everybody's first half, and that was in the National League, and especially at his position. So that's where it's difficult. How valuable is being the MVP of the first half and then like a half-win player in the second half versus with Buxton just being all-star caliber in the first half, all-star caliber for the most part in the second half. 35 homers, 126 games. I lean towards PCA because he played 157 and, the defensive value there and everything that he's doing. And I ultimately, that's the direction I go. But I thought Buxton had, a pretty decent case given that he played a lot. He put 118 games at center field this year, but 118 games at center field compared to the 150 plus that PCA played at a higher level, I do think matters, especially in a position where we talked about, I alluded to earlier, the defense is going to carry more weight. That ultimately pushed me towards PCA, but the second half being what it was, I think made it a really interesting conversation.
It's funny. Yeah. First half versus second half, Buxton has a little bit of that recency bias because he has done it sooner, but I agree with you. When you combine defense at a primary position, because we're not talking about, I can discount it a little bit when we're talking Juan Soto versus Fernando Tatis Jr. in a corner, but in center field, I need a patroller out there, and there was few better than Pete Armstrong. And on top of it, even though a lot of it came in the first half, the offensive numbers over the season, outside of the WRC Plus, which was 109, 31 home runs, 31 bags, or what was it? I think it might have even been more. It
35 bags, I think.
35 bags. 287 OBP is so tough.
It's just nuts. But he slugged 481. So like
327 OBP for Buxton too. So neither of them are like getting on base at a super high clip at all.
No. So I think the counting stats, the defensive value, it's just too impactful for the game there, and that's why PCA gets that final nod for me too.
DH should be easy. George Springer.
Yeah, I mean it was interesting though. Like Schwarber.
Yeah, I thought Springer was better this year. I know the home runs. I'm taking Springer's year. Because I remember you were talking about WRC Plus, dude. I mean, Springer was right up there with Judge, Ohtani, and Nick Kurtz.
Yeah. Schwarber, it's like how much value is
Glitz and glamour.
All 162. All 162. But Springer played 140. He hit 309 with a 400 on base.
Yeah.
It's like, but
hit 32 jacks, stole 18 bases. I mean, his 166 WRC plus was higher than Cal Raleigh's. Schwarber was at 152. He was right there and hit 56 jacks.
I go Springer too, though, because Schwarber hit 56 homers, right? He slugged 563. George Springer slugged 560. So it's like, that's the interesting thing to me is, yes, home runs are very valuable. No doubt about that. But if you're ending up in a similar position slugging wise, I think that chips away at the importance. Like, that is actually the shiny thing, right? Like, that is where we're gravitating towards, just the prettier looking number, because you can accumulate the same value in hitting a lot of doubles and just getting on base more consistently and just hitting for more average, a lot more singles and things like that. I think it definitely helps. It's interesting. I think the 400 OBP is kind of what pushes me back towards Springer in his season.
And the 310 average and the 32 jacks. Yeah. And to your point about the slugging comes in different ways. You know, is more of a leadoff hitter, still hitting 32 home runs and hitting 310. I think that's more valuable than the leadoff hitter hitting 240 with 56 jacks. I do.
Yeah.
It's the only thing that he did better than Springer this year was hit more home runs. That's it.
Yeah, it really was just hit more home runs. I don't think there's even the expected, like the xWOBA, Springer has a few points on him, which is pretty crazy given how hard Schwarber hits the baseball. That and driving and runs, but it's two different spots in the lineup and two totally different roles. So yeah, I think Springer's season offensively was more well-rounded.
Moving over to the starting rotation, who is your SP6? So we already went through our top 5. Who's leading your second team rotation? Because for me, I think this is the ultimate lunch pail pick. Give me the guy who led Major League Baseball in innings, Logan Webb.
Okay. I can see that. I could
hear other sexier arguments. I could, but I had to go with him.
And I don't know if that was a little bit of the World Series still like subconsciously affecting me. I don't know. Because that was also one of the craziest things I've ever seen in person. Just watching that guy throw on 0 days rest. Just like, I couldn't believe I was seeing that. But 2.49 ERA, all the underlying looked just as good as well. Like, he was just so damn good and important, like a stalwart in that rotation when like there was so many guys dropping around him and everything. I went Yoshi as my SP6, but I mean, obviously a ton of value in what Logan Webb did and the amount of innings he threw.
And again, it's not Yamamoto's fault because it's clear he wants to go as many innings as possible. It's not his fault that the Dodgers limit his innings so he can be at full strength for the playoffs. It's a smart move. It's not Yamamoto's fault, but our job is to evaluate the season in front of us. And Logan Webb threw about 40 more innings.
Yeah.
Still put up a very high strikeout rate. Still prevented runs. Like, I think I would just rather that as a season. I think Yamamoto is a better pitcher. And if you ask Yamamoto to go 200 innings next year, he's giving you 210.
Yeah.
He's a better pitcher. But looking at the seasons, I would just take Logan Webb by a hair.
Yeah. It's always so tough when you try to juggle the run prevention versus innings thrown.
Yeah.
And for me, I got enough of a gap in run prevention to slightly outweigh the innings thrown, and he still made 30 starts. So that was it for me. But again, there's so much value to Logan Webb. Just 34 starts, 207 innings at a 3.22.
And regardless, they're both 1 and 2, so you can put them in any order that you wanted. They're still on our second team. Number 3, I went Max Fried.
Yep,
of the Yankees. So we're aligned there. Ton of innings this year. Was one of the league leaders in innings and put up a ERA around 3. Really solid season in his first year of pinstripes. And number 4, this is where it gets dicey. I went with Freddie Peralta. And I thought he was a good combination of innings thrown and run prevention at the same time, with solid underlying metrics with the high strikeout rate, maybe a couple more walks than we would like. But still overall, I think Freddie Peralta finishing in, I think he was 7th or 8th in ERA. I think you're going to make my team when you throw that many innings.
Yeah, and yeah, like you mentioned, 7th or 8th, and it was 8th in ERA. I was some other guys that we'll talk about, not to spoil it, that I gave a little bit of a look to, and maybe they had slightly better underlying, but the underlying was still pretty good with Freddie. And like at the end of the day, it's what you did this year.
Yeah, I also just don't care about the underlying as much.
I don't
when
as
we're
much
talking
either.
about what the season was. Of course, when we're predicting for next year, when we're making our rankings, that's where you're going to see how much those influence our decisions. But when we're just like voting for MVP or making these teams, ERA, innings, and I'll sprinkle in a couple other things I liked, but that's what we're looking at here.
Yeah. So I went Freddie as well. He was my next guy.
And then number 5, this is where I kind of went off the path a little bit. Nathan Eovaldi putting up a 1.73. Yeah. I know it's 130 innings, but damn it, it's a 1.73 ERA. I mean, Paul Skeens, I know, threw about 50 more innings, but that was a 1.97. And who knows? Maybe Nathan Eovaldi the wheels could have fallen off. And if he threw 180, it wouldn't have been close. But we're just guessing. And that's still like, I got to take the 1.73. I got to.
Yeah, this was the ultimate. How much do you value the run prevention versus the innings? It's just a 1.73.
The rest of them were like 180, 175. And I was like, okay. They're at like a 3.029 in that many. And Nathan Eovaldi's at a 1.73. I got to go with him.
To put it in perspective, pitchers minimum 50 innings. Here are the only pitchers with a lower ERA than Nate Eovaldi. Abner Uribe, Edwin Diaz, Aroldis Chapman. He was tied with Andres Munoz in ERA.
Where's Mike Vassell on that?
Mike Vassell is... Where is Mike Vassell?
Did you do at least 100 innings? No, you didn't.
Oh, I did 50. Where's Vassell?
90 innings at a 2.
Yeah, I don't know why is he not popping up here? Why are they not giving Vassell any love? But yeah, it's crazy stuff. To just be that dominant. So it's not like it was 90 innings, it was still 130. So I went him. Brian Wu was really tough too, though.
Yeah.
Like, wanted to give Wu some love.
I wanted to give Andrew Abbott some love.
I don't think Eovaldi would have had such a bad 50 innings that his ERA got to the point where it was at like Wu's, which is crazy because Wu's was great too. He's still sub 3. But yeah, I just lean towards just the lowest ERA we saw from a starting pitcher, minimum, 100 plus innings, and guy that was comparing to reliever numbers. Like it's crazy. We're talking about how unhittable Trevor Rogers was and how incredible he was, right? It's 109 and 2/3 innings at a 1.81 ERA.
Yeah.
That's less innings, higher ERA than what we got from Nate Eovaldi.
Yeah. So you're aligned there with me. You went Eovaldi at 5.2. So we are pretty much in lockstep. I think the only position we disagreed was first base. Right? And maybe a different order of Webb and Yamamoto.
Yeah.
Should we kiss?
Well, we got reliever, right?
We do have a reliever. It could change. Cade Smith and Andres Munoz.
So
but again, I'm not hanging on that. Like with these relievers, I wanted to get the guy who led an F4 on one of my first or second teams. And he was so important, especially when Class A goes down with the scandal, stepping into that closer role. I know the ERA is at the 2.9, but he also threw a ton of innings, and the underlying look amazing. And then with Munoz, I did feel he was the third best reliever in baseball this season, behind Diaz and Chapman. And I thought Munoz would probably be number 3. And you can make an argument he could be number 2. But I could hear a different argument than Cade Smith, because at the end of the day, it's a 2.9 ERA compared to a lot of other guys who put like up a 1.7.
I went Abner Uribe.
Yeah.
Because I just thought he was asked to do so much. 75 appearances this year at a 1.67 ERA.
Mm-hmm.
75 and a thirds innings for this guy. That was where I looked at the usage, and you compare to some other. Here are the other relievers that made 75 plus appearances. You had Adrian Morejon. He's probably got a good case to like a 2.08 ERA. You mentioned Cade Smith. He made one more appearance at the 76. Spire, Jeremiah Estrada, Brandon Little, which is crazy. Tony Santillan, which is nuts as well. And then Tyler Rogers, sneaky 81 games pitched at a 1.98 ERA, but I don't think he was asked to do some of the same things that Uribe was asked to do. I think the narrative definitely suits with Smith and what he was asked to do and the situation there, but a 1.67 in 75 games is impressive to me.
I love Abner Uribe so much. He's one of the most enjoyable relievers to watch because it's just pure octane and it's energy and it's a sizzling fastball.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I feel like his fastball might be the loudest in Major League Baseball when we're talking about wind speed. Like, I feel like I can hear the seams sizzling off his fingers more than maybe anybody else. It reminds me of when Camilo Duvall was at the peak of his powers in San Francisco just a few years ago, where it's just that sidearm motion, getting that run on the fastball, and on the screen, I swear it's 105.
Yeah.
But it tells me it's 99, 100. But I was like, I could hear that thing humming in. And he was asked to pitch in the 8th. He was asked to be a weapon early on. He was asked to pitch in the 9th. But I do believe, to my core, the hardest 3 outs to get in baseball are the last 3. And Cade Smith spent a larger time as the Guardians closer. He had to throw at least the same, maybe not if more innings, recorded more saves, underlying was a little bit better. You know what? I'm kind of talking myself into Uribe, if I'm being really honest. If this is a trust circle right now, I think I'm talking myself.
It's so hard with relievers.
I don't give a shit about F4 for relievers. I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit about their underlying metrics. Why did I do it? Just to seem smart? I'm not smart. Why didn't I just go with the guy I like better? Abner Uribe is my pick.
Let's go. So we only had one difference.
I don't have to pretend I'm smart. Who am I pretending to? Everybody knows who I am. I'm going with who I like, and that is Abner Uribe. And I love Cade Smith, but F4 total. Look at me. I looked at the Fangraphs page. Abner Uribe was way cooler.
Cade Smith just got pump faked out of a really important award.
Really
important award. Second team all reliever from Just Baseball. And now he just had that taken away from him.
Hopefully he can recover. But I gotta go with Uribe. Because I also Ty goes to the guy I like watching more.
Well, Ty goes to the guy who leads the league in emotes too.
Yeah.
So I like it.
All right. So I read off my first team last time. Why don't you read off your second team as we end it?
Okay. Let's make sure I got this right here.
I can do it for you if you want to.
But Alejandro Kirk at catcher. First base, we had Matt Olson. Second base, Nico Horner. Shortstop, Geraldo Perdomo. Third base, Michael Garcia. DH, Kyle Schwarber. Then in the outfield,
DH George Springer.
I had slash. Yeah, George Springer.
Oh, so you really...
I had the slash with those two as well.
Where are you going with Springer?
Side by side, but you convinced me on Springer.
Okay.
Fernando Tatis Jr. in the outfield, along with Julio Rodriguez and PCA. That was a slash. Byron Buxton. I went for PCA. Yoshinobu Yamamoto. There's a couple pitchers I had slashes on here too, so make sure I say them right. Freddie Peralta, in no order, obviously. Max Fried, Nate Eovaldi, and then who's the one pitcher I'm missing? Logan Webb. And then relievers, I went Munoz and Uribe. You went Munoz and
Uribe.
Uribe.
I switched. Can I get a little bit of a pass? I'm going with Uribe. Too sizzling, too hot.
I'll give you one change.
So that'll do it for this episode of the Just Baseball Show. Hopefully everybody enjoyed. The next time you'll hear from us is Thursday. We will be again live on YouTube. Unfortunately, I will not be able to be there, but Arm and Jack are doing a mailbag, an off-season mailbag. And then the following week, we start to get into free agency predictions. So be sure to follow this podcast wherever you listen to your shows. And if you can, leave a 5-star review if you did enjoy, and even a written review would be very, very kind. And of course, if you're joining us on YouTube, we really appreciate everybody joining. And the best way to support these live streams, hit that big red subscribe button, like the video, and comment down below your favorite, least favorite parts, anything that you disagree with. I also noticed that our comment sections are starting to be, well, actually, this contract is not the exact length of what you said, and then they leave. So really what it is, it's almost like a hour and 20-minute fact checker, and we normally get a few comments about that, which, is good. I'm glad people are doing that. But let's get all the comments in there. Let's get a bunch of different comments in our YouTube comment section. Of course, remember to go get yourself some Just Baseball merch. And if you want to join our Discord in the offseason, Hot Stove is heating up, and you can join for less than a price of a sandwich per month. Aram, before we go, anything else?
Nothing. Top 100 should be the end of season update next week. And that's all I got. And then continuing to hammer out the team top prospect list. Mets will be out this week as well on that update.
So again, thank you everybody for listening. And with that, thank you everybody.